Good evening everyone. Today I'll be reading about several Egyptian gods and their origin stories. So sit back, relax, close your eyes and drift asleep as we talk about ancient Egypt. This first story is about the sun god, Ra. In the beginning, there was none, the primeval waters of chaos. From none, the Benben, a mound of pyramidal stone, emerged. Upon this mound, Ra was self-created, coming into existence as he willed himself out of the none. As the sun god, Ra embodied the sun's different stages. In the morning, he was Khepri, the dawn, often depicted as a scarab beetle. At noon, he was Ra, the mighty falcon-headed god, soaring high in the sky. And in the evening, he became Atum, the old man representing the setting sun. Ra created Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture, from his own essence, through spit and a sneeze. Shu and Tefnut gave birth to Nut, the sky, and Geb, the earth. These four, along with Ra, formed the Heliopolitan Ennead. Ra ruled the cosmos, but humans were not always obedient. In a fit of rage, he sent his eye, a goddess named Hathor, to punish them. Hathor transformed into Sekhmet, the lioness, and started a bloodbath. Alarmed by the extent of destruction, Ra ordered her to stop. But Sekhmet, in her wrath, didn't listen. Ra then ordered the brewing of a large amount of beer, dyed red with ochre. When Sekhmet drank it, she became drunk and fell asleep, waking up as Hathor again. Despite his supreme power, Ra was not immune to trickery. Isis, who wanted to elevate her son, Horus, to the throne, tricked Ra into revealing his secret name. Isis created a snake that bit Ra, injecting him with a powerful poison. In agony, Ra called upon his high priests and gods to cure him, but to no avail. Isis came forward, stating that she could cure him if he revealed his true name, which was a source of immeasurable power. Desperate, Ra complied, and Isis healed him, absorbing his supreme power and allowing her son Horus to ascend the throne. Throughout these events, Ra continued his daily journey across the sky and throughout the underworld. He travelled in a solar bark called Manjet, the morning boat, and Mesektet, the evening boat. A host of deities accompanied him, including Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice, who guided Ra's ship. Ra's most dangerous part of his journey was through the underworld, Juat. Here, Ra transformed into a ram-headed figure. Each night, Ra was threatened by the chaos serpent, Apep. With the aid of Set and other deities, Ra managed to defeat Apep and emerge every morning reborn, illuminating the world and maintaining Ma'at. As time went on, Ra became old and weary. His rule became weak, and the humans, once created from his tears, conspired against him. Ra then unleashed his eye again, this time in the form of Hathor, to punish humanity. The slaughter was stopped by the gods, who pleaded with Ra to spare humanity. Finally, Ra chose to withdraw from the world, elevating into the sky on the back of Nut, who had transformed into a cow. As he ascended, he appointed Thoth, the god of wisdom, as his deputy. Even then, Ra did not retire entirely. He continues his daily journey, a symbol of eternal renewal, driving away the forces of chaos and providing warmth and light to the world. This next story is on the god Ptah. In the ancient land of Egypt, in the great city of Memphis, a deity was revered above all others, Ptah, the god of craftsmen. This tale unfolds the grandeur of Ptah, the architect of the universe, and his profound influence in shaping the cosmic order. Ptah, the creator god, was fundamentally different from the other gods of Egypt. While others like Ra, Atum, and Amun spoke or thought the world into existence, Ptah forged the world through the work of his hands and the words of his heart, merging thought, word, and action into a unified force of creation. It was Ptah who, in the swirling void of Nun, crafted the universe using the powers of his heart and his tongue, breathing life into the cosmos and setting the celestial bodies into motion. He was seen as the divine patron of architects, stonemasons, metalworkers, carpenters, and artisans of all kinds. It was believed that his favor blessed the tools of the craft, allowing them to shape stone, metal, and wood into forms of beauty and purpose. His image was evoked in every action, in the shaping of a sculpture, the building of a monument, the crafting of jewelry. Each stroke of the chisel, each bend of the metal, and each polish of the stone was a testament of his divine skill. Ptah's sacred sanctuary was in Memphis, the city he himself had crafted. It was here that his high temple, Hut Ka Ptah, or the House of the Ka of Ptah, stood. In this grand temple, his statue, sculpted from precious metals, was kept in a shrine and worshipped by the people of Memphis. The grandeur of Memphis reflected Ptah's glory, and his patronage was believed to be the reason for the city's prosperity. Ptah was depicted as a mummiform man, his body tightly wrapped as if ready for burial. He wore a skull cap and held a scepter, combining the Was scepter of dominion, the Ankh of life, and the Djed pillar of stability. A fitting symbol for a god so intrinsically linked to creation, preservation, and endurance. Ptah was married to the fierce lioness goddess Sekhmet, and together they had a son, Nefertem, the god of beauty and healing. This divine family was known as the Memphite Triad, the divine rulers of the city of Memphis. One of the most intriguing myths about Ptah tells of how he created the gods and goddesses of Egypt. It is said that Ptah, the great artisan, molded the bodies of the gods and goddesses on his potter's wheel, breathing life into them and setting each to rule over their domain in the natural and supernatural worlds. This role as divine sculptor underscores Ptah's mastery over creation. Despite being one of the oldest gods in the Egyptian pantheon, Ptah's influence transcended the ages. Even as the political landscape of Egypt shifted and the prominence of cities like Thebes and Heliopolis rose, Ptah remained a consistent figure of worship. His cult was even adopted by the Greek settlers in Egypt, who equated him with their own divine craftsman, Hephaestus. So unfolds the tale of Ptah, the divine craftsman, who, through the thoughts of his heart and the words of his mouth, created the universe and everything in it. His influence is felt in every crafted object, every built structure, and every act of creation. The story of Ptah is indeed a testament to the enduring power of skill, craftsmanship, and the divine magic of creation. This story is about the ancient god Khonsu. Long ago, in the ancient civilization of Egypt, under the vast, star-studded expanse of the night sky, a deity reigned supreme in the shadows, Khonsu, the moon god. His tale is one of change, time, and healing, echoing through the millennia as softly and persistently as the moonlight itself. Khonsu was an essential part of the celestial triad of Thebes, comprising himself, his father Amun, and his mother Mut, born from the union of the invisible wind and the primordial waters. Khonsu symbolized the passing of time and the constant cycle of growth and decay. His name, derived from a term meaning the traveller, was fitting, as it mirrored the moon's ceaseless journey across the night sky. A potent symbol of Khonsu's influence was his headdress, an emblem of a full moon combined with the crescent moon, resting on a great royal headpiece. His form was unusually that of a young man or a child, often depicted holding the Was scepter of power, and the Ankh, the symbol of life, reflecting his role as a deity of time and life. The city of Thebes, with its grandiose temples and thronging populace, was the heart of Khonsu's worship. His great temple in the Karnak complex, adjacent to the precincts of his father Amun and mother Mut, was a sight to behold. Here, the priesthood carried out elaborate rituals to honor Khonsu, from the daily offerings to the grand celebrations during the full moon. Khonsu was revered as the god of time. The waxing and waning of the moon were a tangible expression of the passage of time, leading to his association with this vital element. The lunar cycle was instrumental in the Egyptian agricultural calendar and was essential for scheduling religious events, further enhancing Khonsu's significance. The Egyptians also saw Khonsu as a god of healing. It was believed that his soothing silver moonlight had healing properties, capable of curing the sick and repelling malevolent forces, Many who were sick or afflicted would pray to Khonsu for his healing blessings, placing small clay stelae or stone slabs engraved with his image in his temple. In a particular myth, Khonsu even played a role in creation itself. It was said that when Nut, the sky goddess, was cursed to bear no children on any day of the year, Thoth, the god of wisdom, gambled with Khonsu for moonlight. Thoth won enough light to create 5 additional days, known as the epicomonal days, during which Nut could give birth to her children, including Osiris and Isis. A striking tale tells of how Khonsu, the Wanderer, could also be a powerful force of nature. Once, when the pharaoh Ramses II needed to demonstrate his power to a distant land, he sent a statue of Khonsu. The foreign prince touched the statue and he was instantly struck down, reaffirming the might of Egypt's gods and pharaohs. Yet, despite his immense power, Khonsu was also seen as a deity of youth and innocence. His image often depicted with a side lock of youth, a traditional hairstyle for young Egyptian boys. This duality between power and innocence, time and youth, gives Khonsu a unique place amongst the pantheon of Egyptian gods. As you trace the tale of Khonsu, the god of the moon and time, you follow the silvery light that dances across the waters of the Nile, illuminates the grand temples, and shimmers down the bustling marketplaces of ancient Egypt. His tale is as enduring and ever-changing as the moon itself, reflecting the interconnected cycle of growth, decay, and rebirth, the passage of time, and the soothing balm of healing. The next origin story is of the Egyptian god Hapi. In the world of ancient Egypt, gods and goddesses took on many forms and held dominion over various aspects of life and nature. Among them, the deity of the Nile held a unique and profoundly impactful role. Hapi was not a god of the sun, the underworld, or powerful cosmic forces, but rather, he was the god of something far closer to the everyday life of the Egyptian people. He is the god of the annual flood of the Nile. Hapi is a fascinating figure. He was usually depicted as a man with a generous belly and pendulous breasts, symbols of abundance and nourishment. His skin was painted blue or green, reflecting the colours of the Nile River and the rich vegetation that it sustained. The figure of Hapi is often seen holding an offering table filled with the bountiful produce that he made possible, and he is adorned with the symbols of Upper and Lower Egypt. This indicates his influence was not confined to a single region, but extended over the entirety of the Nile, from its southernmost headwaters to the northern delta where it meets the sea. Although Hapi was a crucial figure within the Egyptian pantheon, he didn't have a significant temple or a city dedicated to his worship like the other gods. This absence of a primary cult center, however, in no way diminished the respect and reverence he garnered among the people. The reason for his widespread worship was the critical natural phenomenon he governed, the annual flooding of the Nile, also known as the arrival of Hapi. This event transformed the arid landscape of Egypt into a fertile oasis, where crops could be grown in abundance. It was a time of celebration, but also a time of anxiety, as the delicate balance between survival and destruction hinged on the flood's extent. If the waters rose too high, they would bring destruction. Too low, and there would be famine. In mythology, Hapi held an interesting role. In some tales, he was the first god created by Atum, the sun god and the first being. According to legend, Atum's tears gave birth to Hapi, who flowed from the heavens to the earth, transforming the barren land into a lush, habitable realm. In other stories, Hapi was described as the faithful servant of the sun god Ra, who toiled without rest, nourishing the Nile from two mythical jars, one in the north and the other in the south. The tale of Hapi is one of life, abundance, and the cyclical nature of existence. He stands as the testament to the ancient Egyptians' intricate relationship with their natural environment, the very force that nurtured their civilization and allowed it to become one of the greatest in human history. Even today, the echoes of Hapi's tale remain imprinted upon the fertile banks of the Nile, whispering ancient stories of a time when gods walked the earth. Next, we're going to take a look at two gods that protected the Upper and Lower Egypt. First is Nekhbet. We start in the ancient city of Nekheb, which is in the south of Egypt, also known in the modern day as El Kab. This was the place of worship for the vulture goddess Nekhbet. The city's name in the ancient Egyptian language, Nekheb, meant the city of the vulture, underlining the deep connection between the goddess and her primary cult center. Nekhbet was known as the Mother of Mothers and the Queen of Heaven. She was primarily a protective goddess, symbolizing maternal care and safeguarding the pharaoh, the nation, and particularly the royal children. Nekhbet was often depicted as a vulture, a creature that the ancient Egyptians associated with purity, because they believed that all vultures were female and were impregnated by the wind. She was also shown as a woman wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt, or as the woman with the head of a vulture. Her wings were frequently outspread in a protective manner, and she often held the Shen, the ancient Egyptian symbol for eternity. Her significance in mythology varied. In one myth, during the Old Kingdom, Nekhbet was considered the wife of Hapi, tying her to the life-giving floods of the Nile. In other myths, she was paired with Wadjet in a twofold representation of the two ladies, the protective goddesses of unified Egypt. The second god is Wadjet of North Egypt. As we traverse north to the land of the papyrus swamps, we encounter the cobra goddess Wadjet. Her home was in Pedep, which the Greeks later named Buto, a city in the delta region of Lower Egypt. Wadjet was a protector of kings and women in childbirth, a defender of truth, and a guide to the underworld. She was a powerful goddess, embodying the fearsome potential of the king and serving as his aggressive protective power. Wadjet was depicted in various forms. Most commonly, she was represented as a rearing cobra ready to strike, or as a woman wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt, often with a lioness's head. She was also known to be represented as a cobra wrapped around a papyrus stem. Wadjet's role in mythology was significant. She was the Lady of the North, the counterpart to Nekhbet, which is the Lady of the South. The two were known as the Nebti, or the two ladies, and were the joint protectresses of the pharaoh and the unified nation. Wadjet also played an essential role in the Osiris myth. She, along with Nekhbet, guarded the canopic jar that contained the lungs of Osiris after he was murdered by his brother Seth. Together, Nekhbet and Wadjet formed the Nebti, or the Two Ladies, a dual goddess aspect that was a part of the royal titulary of the pharaohs. The Two Ladies' name was a representation of the unified country, tying together the two protective deities of Upper and Lower Egypt. When the pharaoh wore the Fshent, the double crown of Egypt, it often featured both Nekhbet and Wadjet, further underscoring the legitimacy of the pharaoh's rule over the two lands. Their protective and nurturing roles also gave them a connection with royal women, and particularly royal births. The goddesses were considered the protectors of the pharaoh from the moment of birth, often invoked in rituals tied to royal births and coronations. The tale of Nekhbet and Wadjet is a testament to the duality often present in ancient Egyptian mythology. They represented two halves of a whole, two potent forces that, when unified, provided protection and prosperity. Their stories are woven into the fabric of the ancient nation's history, a tale of unity, power, and divine guardianship. As you narrate their story, you're bringing to life the power dynamics of a civilization long past, yet whose echoes can still be felt in the symbols and stories they left behind. Finally, we're going to take a look at the god Nephthys, also known as Nephthet or Nebethet in the Egyptian language. It's a fascinating figure in ancient Egyptian mythology, also known as the Lady of the House, her house being the sky where Horus lived. She represents the aspect of life dealing with death, decay, and the unseen. She is a protectress of the dead, a friend to all from birth to the afterlife. In the Heliopolitan cosmology, Nephthys is one of the original 5 gods of the cosmos, born of the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb. Her siblings were Osiris, Isis, and Seth. She was typically paired with her brother Seth, the god of chaos and the desert. And while this union was generally barren, it did produce one important offspring, Anubis, the god of embalming and the afterlife. Nephthys was often depicted as a woman wearing a headdress in the shape of a house and basket, the hieroglyphic signs of her name. At times, she was also shown as a bird, specifically a kite or a hawk. Her association with the kite stemmed from the bird's strong connection with death and decay, and it was often seen near cemeteries. Nephthys played a significant role in one of the most important myths of ancient Egyptian mythology, the story of the death and resurrection of Osiris. When Osiris was killed by Seth, it was Isis and Nephthys who found the mourning Osiris's body. Isis then used her magic to conceive a son, Horus, by Osiris, while Nephthys acted as a nurse and protector, helping to hide the child from Seth. However, a critical subplot in this larger myth involves Nephthys' own son, Anubis. Disguising herself as Isis, Nephthys seduced Osiris and became pregnant with Anubis. Fearing Seth's wrath, she abandoned the child, leaving him to be found by Isis. Isis, taking pity on the child, adopted Anubis and raised him as her own. Throughout Egyptian mythology, Nephthys is a constant presence during the journey of the dead. She is often depicted on coffins and funerary texts, comforting the deceased and offering them guidance as they navigate the afterlife. Her powerful lamentations with Isis were thought to have the power to revive the dead. Nephthys also played an important role in the ancient Egyptian festival known as the Beautiful Feast of the Valley, where she and her sister Isis were invoked in a ritual of protection and rejuvenation. The festival was a celebration of life and death, linking the living pharaoh and the deceased ones with the gods. Nephthys' story is a complex tapestry of loyalty, protection, and the duality of life and death. Although she was married to Seth, the bringer of chaos, she remained loyal to Osiris and Isis, played a crucial role in the resurrection of Osiris and the protection of Horus. Her mournful cries, along with those of her sister Isis, were a song of sorrow, but also a celebration of rebirth and renewal. Her role in the myths of ancient Egypt brings a depth and complexity to the understanding of life, death, and the afterlife in this ancient civilization.